Dort. This is Lee Dort, and I'm down to dunk. This is Lee Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
I'm Josh Giddey, and I'm down to dunk.
Hey, this is Kenny Hustle, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Darius Baisley, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Mike Muscala, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Kobe, and I'm down to dunk.
I love cereal. Captain Crunch, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Cracklin Oat Bran.
Oh, I can have these. I'm gonna share with my team, but I'm gonna hog most of them.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schleck. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. Couple things for you guys. Fassler Hall, June 23rd from 6 to 10 p.m. is going to be our draft party. Be there or be square. You don't want to be caught sitting at home trying to talk to your dog or to your wife or to your kids about why you really like what they did at 12 or the trade that they made to get to 7 or whatever it is, or how you think Chet Holmgren is going to fit with SGA. You need to be somewhere with people that know what you're talking about. And even if you don't know, man, I don't know anybody that's going to the party. I promise you, just find a table, sit down. You are going to find people that love the Thunder just as much as you do, and you're going to make a friend. So just join us. It's going to be great. It's going to be such a fun time. Fassler Hall is going to be popping. They're going to have proper bartenders and chef cooks and everybody in place to make sure that you get fed and that you get your drinks that night. You can also try the dream scenario if you have not had that yet. So please come out. And also, if the person who travels the furthest is going to get a prize package that includes something from Lively Beer Works, who made the dream scenario. And then you will also get, we're making 2 brand new Down to Dunk shirts, and you will get those for free. So,
wow.
Join us. We've got people, I know we have people traveling from far. So we may even have to hand out more than one prize if people are coming from way far away, but it's going to be great. With me, as always, is Michele Barrett. Michele, what's up, man?
Well, first of all, I really like the order that you put dog, wife, and children in likelihood that they will listen to you talking about basketball, because I think it's actually very, very precise. I mean, I try to discuss pick and roll with my kids every single day, but no luck so far. Wife at least tries to and just nods. Yeah, I can see a screen there. Dogs just stay there. I can talk to her and say whatever I want. She's half asleep most of the time because she's old, but she's good company. So this is how I will watch the draft, and probably in the basement with my dog. So I can relate. and by the way, shout out to let me get the name right. Lars Eya from Norway. He wants to come to the draft party. I was in Norway 2 days ago. It's a beautiful country, a very weird one, but beautiful nevertheless.
Yeah, the pictures were unbelievable that you sent us. Another thing is that there's another Down to Dunk draft party forming in Scottsdale, Arizona. So we have some Down to Dunk listeners that live in Scottsdale. So if you're anywhere near the Scottsdale area, they're hosting their very own Down to Dunk party. Okay, it's at Backyards. It's an Oklahoma Sooner bar in Scottsdale. It'll be June 23rd at 4:30 p.m. So join, and we will have some more info about that in the next few days as well. So, Michele, we've got a trade. We have an emergency pod of sorts. This was a scheduled pod, but it's an emergency one because the Thunder have traded for JaMychal Green and a protected 2027 first-round pick. Oklahoma City is sending the 30th pick in this year's draft and 2 future second-round picks. So what this is one, it's not the Thunder thinking that JaMychal Green is the finishing piece to a team. It is the Nuggets needing some cap relief and the Thunder having cap space to just take in his almost $9 million, or it's an $8.2 million contract for 22-23. And this is, to me, I really like what they did, because the 30th pick in this year's draft ain't worth a whole lot to OKC. One, they don't have a ton of roster spots. They're going to have to eat a contract at some point. However, this allows them to kick the can down the road to 2027. Who knows what the Nuggets look like in 5 years?
Yeah.
That's what they're forecasting. Is like, what do the Nuggets look like in 5 years? Odds are they're not going to have the best record in the league because only one team can have that. Okay. The Thunder happened to get a pick from the team, and they didn't anticipate this Suns pick being the 30th pick when they traded Chris Paul. And so it's almost like a redux of that pick.
Yeah.
Like, well, that didn't work out like we wanted. And instead of just making the pick, you kick the can down the road to 2027. You probably get a better pick in all likelihood. Like the odds are that it's going to be a much better pick than the 30th pick. And you take on some money of theirs. And it also really emphasizes that 2023, the summer of 2023, is so important for them to have financial flexibility then, because his money will come off the books. Favors money will come off the books. And Kemba Walker's deal will come off the books. And you'll have a completely clean cap sheet. A lot of people have speculated that, oh my gosh, the Thunder could be a team to just take on Russell Westbrook's contract, and here's how they do it. Or here's the Thunder to take on Tobias Harris to save the Sixers from themselves, or they'll be able to take on whoever. And this slams the door shut on anything like that happening. And it was honestly, it was already shut to begin with.
Yeah.
People just didn't understand that the summer 2023 is targeted, circled, however you want to phrase it. Sam has not, he's been very direct about it when he's talked to the media.
Yes.
It's a new CBA. They want to have a completely clean cap sheet. This is where maybe the rebuild starts to turn into something else. But that's what this deal is for. And also, in 2027, the Thunder are hoping to be a very good team. And a pick in 2027, just to have one, just to have an extra first rounder, it doesn't mean they're going to select somebody at 25 that year. They might. But that's when you want to have picks to trade. Because if you can take 2 first rounders, you can turn that into a starting center. You can turn that into a starting level forward. And I know it's hard to think about right now, where it's like, we got another late round pick, like in the future, like I might be dead then. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I understand why people feel that way. But when this team is good, when this team was good, they only had their own picks to trade.
Yeah.
They had to trade a first round pick to get Dion Waiters. You know, they had to trade for, which
that was not a good trade.
Not great. But if you have a surplus, you can get something better than Dion Waiters next time around. You can make a trade for somebody that makes a meaningful difference on your roster then. And that's what those are for. That's what those are going to be for. Drafting the guy at 30 who's going to be competing with a mess of guys that are in that, like, I'm as good as the 30th pick range. They have like 5 or 6 of those guys on their roster right now.
Yeah.
There's really no point in stacking like mediocre talent. Now, 2 and 12, yeah. That's important. And also, why would they trade 30 instead of 34? Well, 34, you can control the contract a lot better. You can put some non-guaranteed money on a deal at 34, which is like Teo Maledon could be waived this summer because he was a second-round pick, because he has a non-guaranteed deal. So, long-winded way of saying, like, this is another like forward-thinking Sam thinking about how am I going to manage this team, and thinking about like, how did I manage the team when they were good in the past, and what did I do wrong? Well, if I can stack picks for like the next 5 years, it's going to help me down the road. So anyways, what were your thoughts when you first saw the trade?
I mean, first of all, I got it wrong the first time. And I thought that the second rounders were like coming in, which is, wow, that seems a lot. Awesome. But even if they don't, and apparently it's OKC sending out 2 second rounders, we need to see the protections on everything before we really evaluate the trade. Of course, if it's top 25 protected first and you have unprotected seconds, it seems like a trade where OKC extracted very little value. I don't expect that to be the case because, I mean, it doesn't make too much sense, but you still retain the value of first rounder. Now, I think that if you're OKC, you do that trade only if you see upside in that pick in 2027. We don't know anything, so we'll see how it comes up. But I guess that this is a value play by Presti, where he gets something where that is either a good asset for himself, for the team itself, or a tradable asset. And like a top 25 protected pick, it's not really value. And then you need to see like how it rolls. Because if it's a pick that rolls 2 years or 3 years, then you start thinking about the pick that may be very interesting going forward. And then there is the value of JaMychal Green himself. I don't think that he is a bad player at all. Maybe he's not worth another first rounder. I don't think so. But there are teams that might be willing at the end of free agency to take someone like him. Like a team like Portland, for example, they have a good trade exception. Maybe if it costs them nothing and they... Of course, they don't want to do it now. This is the reason why JaMychal Green was not traded later in free agency. It's because everyone who has a trade exception right now wants to use it on a player that is better than JaMychal Green. Denver has no intention to wait. They like having another first rounder now, which may help them trading up a little bit. But OKC has time. They don't have a deadline in terms of salary. So if Portland at the end of free agency says, "Hey, would you mind giving him for a protected second?" Sure, take him.
Take him off our hands.
Take him.
You might even just trade him there for a top 55 protected pick because you have to trade something back just to get him off the roster.
Yeah, exactly. The Portland doesn't have to do anything, and if someone takes favor instead of him because someone needs him a little bit more, you can just play him as a veteran in OKC, and maybe by the deadline, either he really works and you are in a very good spot, or you can flip him. So I really think
buyers at the end of this year there's no harm in having him on the roster too. Alex Spears just tweeted out that here's 7 teams that have a trade exception where they could just take him.
Yeah.
Celtics, Nets, Mavericks, Pacers, Clippers, Blazers, Jazz. There's a world where a lot of those teams, in fact, even all of those teams, could use a guy like JaMychal Green, who is a pretty good 3-point shooter, decent rebounder, decent defender, just like a nice bench big is what he is. For OKC, he is the reason you got the pick. Essentially, he is the reason that you did. And I'm so interested to find out what the protections are on this pick, because that will tell us a lot. Right now, we don't have the details yet. They haven't been released. And, if this is like a lottery protected pick, like that's pretty good.
Yes.
It's really unlikely with Jokic signing another massive deal with them soon that they're going to ever be like a horrible team. But could that be the 20th pick?
Hey,
it could be the 20th.
Look at LA.
And they just lost their GM, by the way. The Nuggets just lost their GM, and they are becoming a team and a franchise that's unwilling to pay. And this was there's not a ton of deals like this that happen, but this was our owner doesn't want to pay for this roster move is what it is. Because JaMychal Green can still help somebody.
Yeah.
In fact, like if he stayed on the Thunder, he'd play and he'd help them this year, which is why I would like to punt him to the Mavericks.
Come on. You can't start taking the tanking stance on June the 30th. The 13th.
My flag has been planted for years now, Michele. What do you mean?
It's time to remove it.
It's not.
It's,
It
it's
is.
time
It is
to be
absolutely not. It is
hopeful
no.
about
No.
what can happen next season, because you might see something blossoming slowly but surely,
Hey,
and maybe a veteran or two will not drug the season, but they will help along the way.
the seed is planted. It's planted. I don't know if it's even going to poke its head out of the ground yet, but it's planted. It's good. I want them. Listen, I want this team to be good. I
Yeah.
do.
Just don't be the guy who when you're growing plants in your yard and stuff like that, like tomatoes. There are guys who are very aggressive in cutting everything. Like, no, this is not for you. No, this is. You risk of cutting the good ones if you do it too much. So, but you know where I am. In this.
Hey, I know. I understand. I just think, especially with some of the news that came out this week, and I honestly, like we can shift to the Shaden Sharp stuff. If you get Chet and Shaden on your team,
Mhm.
that's like Tank Town, baby.
That is where I completely disagree. Like, I
Shaden
strongly
play competitive
disagree with this
basketball in
statement.
so long.
And to Nathan Creamer and Hoopstock 69, hey, getting Jamichael Green and playing him is not pushing that freaking button. That's not it.
No, it's not pushing a friggin' button, but playing him when you could be playing some guy that needs to develop.
Yeah.
It's not a friggin' button, but it's a button.
No, it's not. It's really not. It's just
Competition.
having
like-
functional players around, which is the point of having and running an NBA team when you
They have plenty of
clearly
those guys. Kelly. They have plenty of those guys. They have plenty. That's fine. It's fine. They got plenty of them. They don't need to add any more competent guys yet.
yeah.
We're not ready.
But my point is, if you have Chet, do you agree that if you play Chet 25 minutes a night,
Uh-huh.
he is miles, like is a ton better of the collection of players that were centers in OKC's last season, like
Yeah.
Diakite.
Yeah.
I mean Diakite.
Yeah.
Diakite. Then he played 7 or more games. Like that's insane. Kalatsakis, whatever. I mean, I'm trying to forget the number of centers that I saw playing in an OKC jersey last season, and Chet is 3 times better than anybody.
He is.
Then you add a full season of Shea and Giddey. Then you add a guy that may be terrible, but it is unlikely that Shaden Sharp is more inefficient than certain players that played in OKC at the wing position last year, named Darius Baisley or Alexei Pokusevsky.
We don't know that though. He could be.
I mean, below Baisley in terms of efficiency or Poku?
Bro, it's possible. It's possible.
It is possible.
I have heard from more than one person that Shaden Sharp has looked terrible in these workouts.
Fantastic. Then he plays 15 minutes.
Not good. And one, I wonder, you have to sift through, okay, so what does that mean? You know, does that mean that Shaden wants to fall in the draft? It could. Does it mean that he's not a good player? It could mean that too. I don't know. I can't sift. I don't have enough information to sift through to say that he is good or not. I don't know. I have no idea. This has been the whole thing with Shaden Sharp this whole time is that we just don't know.
I just want AJ Griffin.
And feedback that is floating around out there. You know, it is, this information has gotten to me from multiple people from multiple different places. So they're hearing it from more than one team that, oh my gosh, Shaden has been bombing these workouts and bombing these interviews. And the 12 thing, the ESPN thing might be real.
Mm-hmm.
It might be totally real. He might be falling because it's just man, he's just not very good, or he just holy smokes, like this guy needs so much more time than we're ready for. And you can go down the list of teams in the lottery, and if the Pistons don't take him, the bottom drops out. Like maybe the Spurs would be willing to take on a long-term project, but the word is that the Spurs want a big, and they want one of those two bigs. Whether I would guess it would be Duren. And
by the way, on Duren, shout out to SportFan405 by asking a question on Vicini's pod about the similarities between Jalen Duren and Time Lord. It was a good question and a great answer.
Yeah, it was. The bottom could drop out here with the Shaedon Sharpe stuff. Like I could see him getting to 12. I mean, that would be ideal if the Thunder really do want to acquire him. Obviously, it's ideal that you don't have to trade anything to get it.
Yeah,
there's no question about that. But I would just say, and I'll just read what it says. Let me read the report so people understand. So this came from ESPN. They put out this piece about Oklahoma City. That was a mock draft, and it just included like these little tidbits about Oklahoma City and what they're doing with their rebuild. So as the Thunder picking Shaedon Sharpe at 12, it says Sharpe is conducting competitive 3-on-3 workouts for most, but not all of the teams picking in the top 10, with his floor likely being this spot with the Thunder, who will be getting a visit and have studied him more closely than any team in the NBA. Sharpe dropping to 12th on draft night would be surprising, but not unimaginable. Not every team picking in the 5 to 10 range has a great handle on what Sharpe's game is, and not all would be willing to give him the freedom and reps he needs to learn on the fly and make up for the experience he missed by skipping his senior year of high school and opting not to play at Kentucky and heading straight for the NBA. Sharpe's camp also doesn't sound overly concerned with where he's picked, preferring to take the long-term view in steering him to an advantageous development situation in which he can maximize his significant potential and become an all-star, with the Thunder being at the top of the list. So if you haven't seen that, that's been all over Twitter, all over Reddit. It's been everywhere. Everybody's been very excited about Shaedon Sharpe. I'm sure if you're listening to this, you probably listened to like 3 podcasts about Shaedon Sharpe already. It is entirely possible that he drops to the Thunder. I'm not fully convinced that the Thunder are going to be the team that takes him. All of this sounds like it's coming from Shaedon Sharpe's camp. And that may just be wishful thinking for them because they have seen firsthand, because remember that the guy who is handling everything for Shaedon was Shea's guy. And so there's insight both ways that a lot of teams don't have, is that your star player in Oklahoma City has a tie directly to the guy who is managing Shaedon Sharpe's career for now and is telling them like, hey, listen, like Mark Daigneault's great. I love working with Sam Presti. I love this team. The fact that Shaedon and his camp have the Thunder at the top of the list should tell you a lot of things. It should tell you that anything about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander not being happy in Oklahoma City is just complete and utter bull. Because if he wasn't happy here, do you think that the guy who used to rep Shai and that is now repping Shaedon Sharpe would want him here? Absolutely not. Also, there is information going back and forth between the Thunder and Shai and his reps. And I mean, that's what's happening here. And they have access in a very unique way that the other teams don't. And at this point in the draft process, agents and teams, agents will steer their players to whatever teams they want, that with regards to information, workouts, medicals, all of that. And the Thunder are getting all of that stuff from Shaedon. And they're saying, please take a look at all of it. Please consider taking him or put yourselves in position to take him. Like that's what his representatives want. What we don't know is if the Thunder look at the Shaedon Sharpe situation and say, hey, this is great. He's super athletic, highly thought of. He's essentially like, this is a pre-draft player that if he were in next year's draft, he would be in the class of all the guys that we are falling over ourselves about. We have the chance to get number 2 pick, whether that's Chet or Jabari, Paolo, whoever it is, who cares? But then you also have the chance to pre-draft somebody that's going to take some time. But he could be thought of as like the 4th or 5th best player in next year's draft after a year of college. So let's bring him in now. Like, I can see the logic there. Like, you can tie it there. And if the interviews go well, if the medicals look good, if they like the kind of kid that he is, if he brings the work ethic, because Jeremy Sohan came in and he talked about how his workout went with OKC. They essentially just wore him out, and they kept pushing and pushing and pushing him to see where he mentally was. Like, let's try to break this kid in this workout and see how he reacts. If Shaedon Sharpe passes that test, get him in here like right away. And he may not work out like that for other teams. I mean, it is a convoluted, it is a tough situation. It's a situation that I would not want to be in, because if I were put on the clock with the information that I have about Shaedon Sharpe, I would say, heck no. No way. Don't do it. But that's because I don't have enough information. I don't have enough information. Just said, just take swings, baby. There are a lot of other swings to take is the thing. There's a lot of guys to like in this range. Shaedon is definitely the biggest swing, but man, and the good thing is with Oklahoma City is that they have the information necessary. And that's kind of all I need to know is, like, do the Thunder have access to all the information necessary for this player? And it seems like they do. And if they end up leaving June 23rd with both Chet and Shaedon Sharpe, boy, I'll tell you, that's going to be one of the most exciting nights in Thunder history. Whether or not it works out, I don't know. Like, I have no clue whether that's going to work out. You could walk out with a guy that's like the talent level of Anthony Davis and Zach LaVine that night. And then your rebuild is almost done. It's almost done. Or you could walk out with a guy that's the caliber of Anthony Davis and Gerald Green. And then you're like, okay, cool. But we've got some things to work on here still. So it is highly interesting. The whole Shaedon Sharpe stuff is fascinating. It's captivating because there's so much mystery behind it.
I completely agree with the mystery. I don't know. I don't have data to base my opinion on.
There's none. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And I think that even in terms of upside, I struggle to understand, and I know that I'm hijacking the pod here, but I still think about AJ Griffin being the 4th/5th best prospect in this draft. And I know that there is many things that have been said about AJ and his defense and stuff like that. But then I heard like a lot of other prospects like, hey, maybe shot will be okay. Maybe the defense will improve a little bit, but this is the making of a great NBA wing. Then you see AJ Griffin, the shot is great. Yeah, he has the pull up. Yeah, but the defense. Okay. But like, we are discussing 2 players that have basically the same age, Sharpe and Griffin.
Yeah.
On one, you really know that he is a shooter, will be a shooter. And
Griffin's younger, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. But they are the same year, right? They were born in the same year, 2003, which is insane. But that's another topic. We are getting old. And you have the mystery of the fact that once upon a time, Griffin was a crazy good athlete. He got an injury. He put on weight, which is not uncommon to work on your muscles to protect your knees when you have an injury.
Mhm.
And then you slowly shed weight and you get back into form. This is something that Embiid did. This is something that like many players do. And now, like, one is, hey, let's swing. Well, let's swing for this. Let's swing on AJ's defense because the offense is a sure thing. He may be the best shooter in this draft.
How much of your hype is based on how good he looked in that Blazers video and photo?
I didn't even look at that video entirely. Like,
he looked physically different than he did.
Yeah, it was slimmer. That is something, but I expected that. So in my mind, when I see Griffin out there defending the point of attack, and I see players beating him up off the dribble, I see a guy that is too close to the defender for his foot speed, which is something that you can really work on. Because it's a positional kind of thing. I think that Griffin wants to be there because once upon a time he was able to keep the guy. It's basically when you get old and you cannot stay really close so that you leave a little bit of space and then you move. So I can't shake this from the top of my head, and I don't understand why he's so maligned. And he's talked like, yeah, and then there's Griffin. I think that we have to talk about him. Come on. He's 6'6". He has an amazing body. Yes, he had a few issues with his knees, but not terrible issues. And we know that he's a shooter. On the other end, with Sharp, we don't know anything. So I really don't understand this, to be honest with you. And I will probably be extremely wrong on him, and he will be a bust like Ben McLemore. That is a possibility.
Well,
but I want to see that because and then I'll finish my rant. A guy like Gary Trent Jr., which was a lesser shooter than Griffin, with no defense whatsoever, absolutely no defense, like pike pass, as we used to say on OKC Dream Team. He is a threat. He letting it fly with basically zero space, and he's playing as a starter in this league.
Yeah,
there are all the indicators that great shooters, and Griffin may be better than Harris, better than Duncan Robinson, better than a lot of guys. He shot better than all of these guys in college with high volume. I really don't understand.
Yeah,
rant over.
Yeah, I feel similarly about like a guy like Ben Mathurin too, who is
lesser shooter, much lesser shooter. Like
not the same as AJ Griffin, but in the sense that like I just have more information about him more than Shaedon Sharpe, and I feel pretty confident he's going to be a good player. And I like the match of him on the Thunder in particular. You know, he as a sophomore put up 17, 5, and 2.5 assists. He's a very explosive athlete, and that's where he and AJ separate. Like AJ is like better shooting, but Ben is a better athlete, and then just like the cutting stuff is like really interesting. And I think he'll be a good enough shooter at the NBA level too, where sure you can project that Shaedon is going to be better than both those guys, but I don't know. I mean, this is where you have to like trust the Thunder and their processes and say like, you have way more information than we could ever gather because this is what they want. Like Shaedon's people have decided that what they want to do, their strategy and tactic is to give selective information. Like they said he's not working out for every team in the top 10.
Yeah.
You know, he's not doing that. He's obviously is going to do that for the Thunder. But you wonder, like, what other teams? Like, I mean, if you're just reading into it, they're probably not working out for the Kings. They're probably not working out for the Wizards. They may not be working out for the Knicks. You know, those are situations where you can say, you know what, I really would just rather not. Even the Pacers might be a situation where, like, you know what, he's not going to get the burn that he needs. I think the Pistons would be one where you'd be like, yeah, okay, like circle that one. They want a longer rebuild. They want a long runway. They're the Thunder without the PR Thunder stuff, essentially. For some reason, they get a pass on like all the tanking stuff, and the Thunder get it all. But anyways, the Pelicans would be another great situation because they don't need him to be good right now.
Yeah.
They can afford to have him getting better in the background. The Spurs is just like a no-brainer too. It's the Spurs. Great. Greg Popovich could be great for him. Although they have a lot of wings right now, and maybe you don't want him there because there's not enough space for him to develop. Because you have to have not only the good team and the good developmental path for them, but you also have to have the minutes for him, which is like why you can look at Oklahoma City and circle it and say like, hey, they don't have anybody like Shaden Sharp on their team. Like not even one guy that approaches the level of what he could be.
Yeah.
And there's going to be minutes. There's going to be development. If they have to use the G League, they'll use the G League.
What's your starting unit if Sharp is picked at 12? Does he start?
I don't know, man. Probably not. I mean, he had played competitive basketball, man.
Why not?
Like, the most fun. Okay, the most fun. Let's just say most fun. It's Shea, Shaden, Giddey. I don't know, whoever at the 4. Who cares?
Poku. You said most fun.
Poku. And Chet. Wouldn't that be just insanely fun? It could be an absolute train wreck. And that's why
I would put Dort in a starting unit, to be honest with you. Shea, Dort, Giddey, Sharp, and Chet.
Yeah, you could go smaller, certainly.
Yeah, I want Giddey to play a lot of minutes at the 4 on defense.
On defense, yeah. I can see that. I'd be surprised if they did that because I don't know. I would be surprised. I also just want to see the thin towers, with Chet and Poku. Like, give me
that could be fun. I actually think that Poku on defense is much better than the average fan thinks.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
He occupies a ton of space with those arms, and this is something that you don't really see in like sometimes the best way to defend a guy is not allowing to pass where he wants and don't allow him to shoot whenever he wants, and you cannot track those things yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is part of us having very little data to understand defense. This is something that I discussed on Twitter a long time ago with Seth Partnow. And probably also when I spoke with him in Vegas, we discussed it briefly.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you couldn't count those things, like denied passes, denied shots, those are not shots that you take and reject or passes that you deflect. Those are the moments where you can't do something because the defense is in the right spot and doesn't allow you for that. And you have to go in your second, third, and fourth read. That is something that I think the length of Poku does, because it's not I think random that when he's on the court, the defense is better. Yes, he spent a lot of time with Kenrich on the court, which helps, of course.
Yeah.
But I think
advantageous spots toward the end of last season.
Yeah.
Like they would have him guarding players he could guard, or they would have him be like the verticality guy at the rim.
Yeah.
And those were good spots for him. And to me, Poku's entire career will hinge on this, and we'll know pretty early. Does Poku need the G League? If you're in year 3 and you need the G League to jumpstart your system, that's the moment where I'll be like, okay, like I'm out. Like this is
it's Caboclo territory.
Yes, you can't continue to do this, because here's the deal. There's gonna be players to outplay him, and you can't justify playing him over those guys anymore. If Giddey can take spots at the 4, Poku, like, goodbye minutes for Poku. Like, they're going to be gone. Like, he's going to have to earn his minutes this year. He really will.
Yeah.
And if he needs the G League to jumpstart his season again in year 3, then we're going to have some real problems. I think we're going to be entering into some strange territory. He may not need it. He may not need the G League. he may have learned enough, gotten big enough, gotten strong enough to where he doesn't need to go back there. But it was concerning. It's happened 2 years in a row. You can justify it in a lot of ways. His age, the weird COVID year. You can talk about a ton of different things with him. But just like facts are facts. Like, does he need the G League? Yes or no? And then we're going to have to really figure out what he is. Because you go through year 3 and you need the G League. They'll probably keep him around for one more year. But I would just feel a lot less confident in him actually figuring it out in year 4. Now, if he doesn't need the G League, he goes through the whole season, he plays like he did at the end of the season, then I think that year 4, you're feeling a little bit better. But
And to be completely honest with you, if today you ask me, do you do the trade again, to trade up for him, and you pick him in the draft today, I would say yes, still. Because there is still a world in which he becomes... Sorry?
because you like the Poku packs?
Yes, that also. And probably because I'm really forgetting who was taken after him in the draft, which...
Jaden McDaniels is like the one where you'd look at Jaden McDaniels and think, okay.
No.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Doesn't matter.
Let me see. It wasn't a great draft in the 20s. Okay. We can play a game here. It's called Poku or blank.
Okay. Blank. Oh, sorry. No, that was not. Okay.
Poku or Josh Green.
Poku.
Poku or Sadiq Bey.
And it's a little bit harder, but it doesn't make I don't think that Sadiq Bey is a starter in this league. So let's pick Poku.
Poku or Precious Achua.
Poku. Don't like Achua too much.
Poku or Tyrese Maxey.
Well, that's easy, Tyrese.
Poku or Zeke Naji.
Poku.
Poku or Leandro Bomero.
Leandro may be good in a few years. Still Poku.
Poku or RJ Hampton.
Poku.
Poku or Emmanuel Quickly.
I am confident that this will sound complete homer, but Emmanuel Quickly is a player that you can start on a team that doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. I don't love
So
this.
Poku.
Poku or Peyton Pritchard.
Poku.
What are we doing here? Poku or Udoka Azubuike? You don't have to answer that one.
Like Poku at the end of the it's always Poku instead, unless it's a player that can really start.
Jaden
for you.
McDaniels. He can really start Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah, you can, but he doesn't provide you.
Okay, Malachi Flynn, no. Bane. Yeah.
Yeah, Ben, yes.
I think you're kind of nuts about like Sadiq Bey and even Precious Achua was like way better for the Raptors this year than anything Poku did. Even Zeke Naji like showed a little bit more this year.
But it's not the point.
What's the point?
The point is if those players fully realize themselves, they are good rotation players.
Yeah.
Which you can probably, if you're RKC going forward, you can probably reacquire by spending a few assets here and there. This is my thinking. Like Peyton Pritchard. I'm not saying that Peyton Pritchard is a worse player than Pokusevski. This is not my point at all.
You can play Peyton Pritchard in the playoffs. You can't play Poku in the playoffs.
Yeah. Poku is a swing. Still is. The flashes are very good.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have flashes and you are 7 feet tall with a 7'5" wingspan, the idea to me is I swing for that. And it's not really the same. There is no player that you just described that is much better than him in that range. Again,
Maxey and Bane.
Maxey and Bane. But those are certified starters in playoff basketball and have still the upside to be better than what they are. Maybe not Bane, but surely Maxey. So Maxey can be an all-star a year from now. You can't say and being like, no, that is obviously the pick. And this is why it's not always the swing.
Mm-hmm.
but it's the swing compared to like having an average player that doesn't really change the outcome of your team
Yeah.
right now.
I understand what you're saying. I do. If you talk to people around the Timberwolves, they would say a lot of these same things about Jaden McDaniels, though.
Yeah, it's not, they're not wrong, but it's similar. And
Duncan loves Jaden McDaniels. Like when
Yeah.
when I was talking to him about like trade packages for Ben Simmons, he like had a hard time putting Jaden McDaniels in those trade packages.
I know they have a high opinion. Offensively, it has to come yet.
Yeah.
Defensively, he is better than Poku today.
Yeah.
But I think that Poku has, again, defensive potential and defensive effectiveness. I think that Poku was not put in a position to succeed very often last year.
I don't think there was a situation available in the world for him.
I don't think so.
A player that's exact, dude. I
think that JRE was put in a much better position to succeed than Poku.
What's okay?
And-
So describe to me the situation. We got to go here soon, but you got to describe to me. You got to provide the world where
How many minutes Pokusevski played with Kenrich Williams, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and a functional big man?
Let's find out.
Very little.
Yeah.
Giddy, Shea, and Pokusevski played very little together. JRE played a ton of minutes with them. Basically played a ton of minutes in position where he could succeed so much, and it was horrible offensively. Poku didn't have that chance. Maybe he didn't earn it.
He also was not good offensively this year.
It's true.
I mean, and I know it's just easier to defend Poku. I fully acknowledge that. I don't know. He had a rough start to the year. Like a really, really rough start to the year.
Yeah. If he starts, he probably has the same start. I don't know. I think that we don't have as many data points as we need with Pokusevski playing with good people around him, good players around him.
Well, the problem
Which is
also,
something.
there's just not that many good players either.
Good passers, good creators. I think that Poku was put in a position where he had to be creator, and this is too hard for him right now. The handle is not tight. Other stuff of his game offensively are not at that level.
Yeah.
And it's not simple for him. It was put in a hard place, like basically 2 years ago. And this helped his development to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure. Like simplifying, even Dort, like I struggle with Dort because of the same reason.
Here's
Like
the possession number breakdown. So for the season, Poku with Josh Giddey and Shea on the court, 58 possessions.
nothing.
20 possessions was the most, and it was Shea, Wiggins, Giddey, Poku, J-Rob, minus 90.
Yeah.
In 20
Yeah,
possessions.
that's fine.
It's not. I mean, it's nothing. It doesn't mean anything. They are a minus in those 58 possessions, minus 33.6. With just Shea and Poku. Let me see what the possessions are. This is on Cleaning the Glass. 806 possessions total.
Mhm.
Poku and Shea together. That's a lot. That's a good amount. Minus 3.1.
That's not bad.
And then with Giddey and Poku, this is the peak podcasting right here where I'm sorting, cleaning the glass.
Take Shea.
531 possessions with just Josh and Poku in lineups. They're a minus 12 and a half.
Yeah. Those lineups were not good. Can you do one last research for me? Just put Kenrich, Shea, and Poku.
Kenrich, Shea, and Poku. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, sometimes you forget that Kenrich Williams is on this team.
Mm-hmm.
And he's good. Like, he's just legitimately a good basketball player. And it's going to be fun to watch him play basketball again, at least for a minute. They played 153 possessions together, those three. and they were a minus 13.5.
Oh, that I didn't expect. Okay, my case is gone. We'll see. I really hope that Poku finds.
I want Poku to be good. I really do. I want him to be a good basketball player. He's just not yet. And he cannot be in the G League. Like he just
No,
can't.
I agree with that.
Like, Matt Noonan points out that like Poku's only 5 months older than Chet. Yes, that's great. He's also, this will be year 3 in the NBA.
Yeah.
Where he has had high class everything from weight training to food to people around him. I mean, the caliber of people that, like the team of people that are working so hard to make sure that Poku is good. I think it would be astonishing to people for them to understand like the amount of effort and resources and money and everything. I mean, it goes down to the nitty gritty with Poku. Like they want to help and control every single aspect of his life so that he can be the best player possible. And it's still very much a work in progress. And maybe it works out. That'd be great. I want it to work out. People talk about Chet. Like Chet's going to come into the league and he's going to be awesome from day one.
Possibly. Yes.
Chet will not see 1 second in the G League.
Let's hope so.
It will not happen. What do you mean? You know, you've watched him play.
Yeah, I know. No, let me say something.
Josh Giddey never played in the G League.
I know.
He will never see the G League.
I know. Let me say something about Pokusevski because I think that my comments can be intended as in a bad way towards staff or the team itself. I'm not saying that what they are doing is worse in terms of development for Pokusevski compared to what I'm saying right now.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to say is that the numbers that we are seeing are also a result of putting Bazley, Dort, Poku not in their ideal roles.
Yeah.
They are pushing them to do stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, what?
Keep going. I just have to. I just got a sorted number that blew my mind. But keep going.
Okay. And so it may very well be that in 2 years, Poku learns how to do a tons of stuff, and he's insane, and that's because of Dagnall developments.
Dagnall he wakes up thinking about Poku's development, which is like why he's the right coach for this team right now. Okay. Tell me this. What is the number for Poku, Shea, and Lou Dort? 142 possessions, so it's not a ton, but it's also not like nothing. What's the number?
I have no idea.
Just guess.
I don't know. +4.
Plus 9.7.
Yeah.
With Shea.
I guess that some of I scrolled to those lineups data a while ago, and I remember that a good lineup with Pokusevski was really good. I didn't remember which one was.
Shea, Dort, Bazley, Poku, J-Rob.
And I think that if you put Muscala with Poku and Shea, it's great anyway. But then
Poku, Shea, Muscala, Dort, K-Rich, minus 58.
Well, no, I was just saying without Dort. But anyway.
Without Dort. Okay, let me see. No, that's with Dort. Plus 133. No, none of them. There's no significant. There's only one lineup that has significant possessions, and it's the Shea, Dort, Bazley, Poku, J-Rob. That's the plus 21.
Okay. There you have it. Just play him with the starters and you're done. So just put Chet instead of J-Rob and you have like plus 12 lineup. That's it.
Right. That's how you become the 5 seed next year. Okay. Thanks so much for listening to our show. We really appreciate it. Be sure to come to our draft party June 23rd at Fassler Hall in downtown Oklahoma City. It's going to be a lovely time. It's going to be super fun. You're going to get to see the Thunder take 2 lottery picks. 2 lottery picks. Think about this. The Thunder aren't going to have a draft where they take 2 lottery picks maybe ever again in the next 10 years. This is it. Don't stay at home. Come hang out with us at Fassler Hall in downtown OKC. and be able to discuss it with super fans and hang out all night. It's going to be the best. So the shirt pre-orders will be dropping that night. We will have them on location. So if you want to be the first to pre-order the shirts, that will be, I think, the only way to pre-order them to start with will be on location at the draft party. So we will have a shirt about the second pick is why we're waiting to release these. So, and we don't know who that's going to be yet. So please come join us at Fassler Hall. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you guys again on Wednesday.